I feel the need.
The need for speed.
You got to say that cooler.
What?
You're just like the need for speed.
That's not how I said it.
Yeah, like that.
That's not how I said it.
did.
I'm being all right. The need for speed. Whatever.
Oh yeah, I love it.
Eddie, you got to do yours also.
Yeah.
What happened?
Do it, Eddie.
What?
Do you feel the need?
Oh, I feel the need. I feel the need for speed. Yeah.
And that's how you deliver a line.
Oh yeah.
Whatever.
Listen, take me to bed or lose me forever, okay? Hold my hand and take my breath away because we're going to fly into the danger zone tonight when we're talking about 1986's Top Gun and 2022's Top Gun Maverick.
Woo. I love it.
Pew, pew, pew. I'm Nicole.
And I'm Rolando.
Nice sound effect, Eddie. And this is Remakes, Reboots, and Revivals.
An original podcast
About unoriginality. It's June 1st when we are recording this, and we're super excited. And I just want to wish everybody a happy Pride Month because we celebrate. So before we get into this week's episode, me and Rolando will be having a booth at a Hudson Pride event happening in Hoboken, New Jersey this Sunday, June 5th. We'll be there from 3 to 5, and it will be followed by a presentation of LGBTQIA films, short films, and I think there will even be a Q&A with the director. So if you want to meet us in person, you should definitely stop by our booth. We might have some cool merch for you, and just come say hi because we want to say hi. So, this Sunday, June 5th, Hoboken Historical Museum, later that afternoon from 3 to 5.
You'll find details in the show notes.
And, it's just a way to kick off this month with a possible closeted movie star.
Wow.
Just going to go there originally. I mean, whether or not he's gay or straight or crazy, whatever, guy knows how to do action movies.
I think we could all agree. Crazy.
And great skin. I think he has great skin.
And good skin. He's aged pretty fucking well, too.
I mean, a lot better than his ex-wife, I'll say that much.
Well, he didn't touch his face, which is why it's impressive.
I think he has definitely touched his face, but...
It doesn't look apparent on him then.
Very subtly.
Yeah, well, then good for him. He subtly touched his face. Not obviously like Nicole Kidman.
Right.
But, we're doing it. We're doing Top Gun, one of the biggest movies of the year. And in honor of that, I think that we should kick this episode off while talking about what our call signs would be if we were in the U.S. Naval Air Force whatever thing program, Top Gun.
Now, does your call sign have to have, significance behind
Yes.
it? Because there was a guy named Rooster, so what does that mean?
Well, the significance of that was that he was the son of Goose. Or that. He was the son of Goose, so it's another, bird.
That's why, or Goose. What's the fucking thing with Goose?
Yeah, I don't know. So some of them have significance, others don't. A lot of them did, if you get the backstory behind it, it seems to. It's supposed to be kind of like you earned this nickname for a reason.
Yeah.
Some of the backstories
the astronauts do it.
Yeah.
The astronauts do it. Yeah,
So
astronauts.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was a whole Big Bang Theory episode about this.
I didn't see that one, I guess. Now I'm trying to think of what my call sign would be.
Well, that's the thing. Actually, most of the time, I think people assign you call signs, but I'll let you say your own, and then I'm going to assign you guys call signs.
But I don't have one. I never had. I never come. I didn't think of one. Eddie, do you have one?
Oh yeah.
What's yours?
The librarian, because I like it quiet.
Librarian.
I like being in places with books, and I like to read.
Okay.
The librarian.
I mean, quiet is not the place to be if you're in the Top Gun, world.
But it doesn't go that way.
The Navy fighter pilots?
Doesn't go that way.
Nicole, what's yours?
I feel like, I'm pretty one-dimensional, so it would be film-related. It would either be Spielberg or camera dude, or I'm just trying to think of what naval officers would go for.
I just think camera dude would be too much text on the helmet,
or just camera maybe.
Okay,
or
but
just
you're not
celluloid. Which
is funny because you're not okay. Maybe that's a thinker.
Yeah, celluloid would be probably mine.
Okay.
Yeah, but you can assign me one if you want.
I also don't have. I don't think I'm trying to. Cat lady.
Spinster. All right. Well,
I got one
let me hear it.
For Nicole.
Nicole. Enigma. 'Cause she likes mysteries.
Ooh.
Okay.
She likes mysteries and she lives her life like a mystery.
See, Eddie is like playing this fucking game right now, and I love it. Okay.
Yeah.
So mine for you guys is for Eddie. I was thinking wizard because he loves fantasy.
Oh, okay, that's cute.
And there was actually a character named Warlock, and I was like, maybe I'll call him Warlock.
Yes,
but
I
maybe I'll
love
do
that
wizard.
too.
That's a good call sign.
Yeah, I was a good call sign. I was just like,
Okay.
what did he do to earn that?
Right?
Yes, those are cute.
And then for Rolando, I would call you binder because you're a very organized person and you like to utilize binders for everything, and that's how you kind of like stay on top of things. So I'd call you binder.
All right, I do love a good binder, to be quite honest. Yes,
He does. So
and
it just like, you know, it's like this guy's organized. The guy's got his shit together, you know? So.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And you called me cat lady.
I called you cat lady.
Where to go?
As a term of endearment, though, you know.
You guys should email us or comment on our Instagram and tell us what you think our call signs are, or your own if you have a call sign. And we're doing this because we're talking about the call sign of Maverick, Pete Mitchell, who is the main character in the 1986 film Top Gun, and the long-awaited sequel, Top Gun Maverick.
Mm-hmm.
I love that Rolando's got a fan going on right now because he
Yeah,
must be really hot.
I turned off the AC, you know, for the recording.
He has this very Victorian age fan.
I know.
I
Maybe
love
this will
it.
change my call sign.
Or abuela fan.
Yeah,
Church
yeah.
abuela.
Well, I love just the atmosphere I'm getting from the Zoom call image right now. But yeah, so let's kick this off with talking about the original Top Gun, which was actually a really important movie when it came out in the 80s, at least in terms of business and box office importance.
Oh, I was going to say, it's just like, how was it important to what?
Yeah, no. I mean, in 1986, the film that won Best Picture was Platoon. But this was probably the most successful movie of 1986, and it actually ushered in kind of like a new era of film. So let me get actually the top 10 grossing films of 1986 if this wasn't the top. It was. Top Gun was top. The other movies that were top were the second highest grossing of 1986 was Crocodile Dundee.
Oh, okay, cute.
2 Paramount movies. Third was Platoon. Fourth was The Karate Kid Part 2.
Wow.
5 was Star Trek The Voyage Home. Couple sequels there. 6 was Back to School. 7 was Aliens. I can't believe Aliens was 7 because Aliens is one of the greatest movies
shocked,
ever.
right?
Yeah. 8, The Golden Child, an Eddie Murphy movie that you probably might not know.
Oh, no, I know The Golden Child.
Oh my
Nice.
God,
Yeah.
yeah, it's such a great,
Nice, yeah.
a great movie.
They don't talk about that one as much, but it's a pretty good Eddie Murphy film. 8, Ruthless People with Bette Midler. And 10, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Excuse me. So those were the top 10 highest grossing films. From Top Gun, you know, we get the teaming of Don Simpson and Jerry Bruckheimer. And the way that they make movies really change movies, where it's pretty much like you can sell the movie in one sentence, you know.
Okay.
And just these really music video-esque, simple but exciting movies. And they kind of take over in the mid-'80s, well into the 90s and early 2000s. And it made Tom Cruise a bona fide star. So have you guys ever seen this movie until recently? Like, did you grow up on it? What was your relationship with it?
Yeah, the first time I saw this film was this week for the podcast.
And you too, Eddie?
No, I saw this as a little kid.
Okay. And
I saw this as a kid.
did you love it? Did you watch it a lot?
No, I didn't love it. I didn't watch it a lot. I think I just kind of saw it because we were just like watching it as a family or something. Yeah, was it like I mean, it was interesting. I felt like, well, yeah, planes, fast, but I think that was just about it. I really didn't appreciate it at the time.
Yeah. I actually didn't see this movie until recently. It wasn't this week recently, but it was this year recently. And I'm in an action movie club, and we watched it. And we actually took points off because we found that it wasn't very action-y. It was just kind of like a training movie, and they didn't go into battle or combat until the end.
Like the very, very end.
Yeah.
And even then, I mean, this movie has no plot.
Yeah, kind of. It's like, what's the conflict here? Is the conflict just himself? Which, okay, sure, I'll go for that. But overall, the movie, it's such a legendary movie that after I saw it, I was like, oh, that was it, huh? Okay.
That's so funny. That's exactly how I felt after I watched it this week.
Yeah.
And I did this, I guess, smart thing of because Eddie insisted I watch it before I see Maverick.
Good.
So I have some context. And I was just like, what is there context needed? Tom Cruise in airplanes. Like, how much more context do I need?
Yeah.
And I was right. I was right.
Well, actually, I would agree with you, but in a different way. Whereas the new film, and we'll get to that in a bit, you kind of don't need to see the original in order to follow along with it. No.
Correct.
Yeah.
So
I think you just appreciate more the underlying story that's going on here.
Yes.
With this is Maverick without Goose.
Yeah, Maverick 36 years later.
This is like the father figure that really never lived up to his own idea of what he should have been for Rooster. So you have kind of those elements that you can you see this. It's like there's some father and son almost going on here, or this so what it is to live your life and be still hurt the loss of your best friend.
Yes. But before we go all the way over there, let's talk a little bit about what Top Gun's about. Well, first of all, Top Gun's a real place. Top Gun is the United States Navy Strike Fighter Tactics Instructor Program, SFTI program, or popularly known as Top Gun. And it pretty much
came up with that moniker.
Yeah, somebody at some time and it just stuck. That's the SFTI's call sign is Top Gun. It teaches fighter and strike tactics and techniques to naval aviators and officers. And yeah, apparently after this movie came out, Top Gun, the real Top Gun, was like
had lots of applicants.
But people were like, don't bring up the movie when you're at the school. Don't. They were almost kind of embarrassed by it for a while. I mean, I think that might have ended, but yeah.
That happens a lot. Right when Hollywood makes a movie about a specific, not even branch of government, but a specific department or something, and people just reference that movie. I'm sure the Men in Black are tired of hearing it's just ugh, don't bring up Men in Black International anymore.
Yeah. Or people at Hogwarts that work at Hogwarts.
Right, exactly. It's just don't bring up Harry Potter.
Exactly. Hey, it's different than how it seems in the movies, guys.
Yeah.
And Pete Mitchell, he's actually not quite at Top Gun when we first meet him. Him and his buddy Goose are naval aviators, and they're stationed aboard the USS Enterprise, and they're just kind of doing their thing, and they get intercepted by hostile MiGs, as they say. And Maverick, he missile locks one on, and they pretty much are able to drive it off. But the other person he's flying with gets so shaken up by it that he has to kind of leave the Air Force, the Naval Air Force, and by default, Maverick gets sent to Top Gun. Right? So first,
Maverick
Lucky
and
Stroke.
Goose.
Maverick and Goose. Yeah, his radar intercept officer, or RIO, or RIO. I don't know. They never really call them that. It's just your guy, your wingman or something. And
he's not the wingman because he's in the same plane as him.
Yeah, again, I'm not even really sure how any of this shit works, but
I mean, it's true.
I don't know if it matters. So Pete Mitchell, Maverick, is kind of a smartass. He's kind of a cocky son of a bitch, and he definitely plays by his own rules and, beats to the sound of his own drum and pisses a lot of people off while he does it. He likes to do flybys, and he'll ask for permission to do a flyby, and they'll say no, and he'll do it anyway. He's that kind of a guy.
He's very cocky.
Very cocky. He goes to the bar that night or right after he gets transferred. He hits on this woman really hard, and kind of embarrassingly. And then the next day he finds out that it's his teacher, and it's just well, you just put your foot in your mouth and all that stuff. Even though she falls in love with him.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's cause something else when it's someone else's mouth. I think later on in that film,
And of course, there can't be such high levels of testosterone and cockiness without there being cockfights. And so Maverick is kind of competing to be the big boy on Top Gun campus with Iceman, played by Val Kilmer, who is more law-abiding and who's just as good as him, but not as much of a smartass, but definitely as cocky as him. So that's pretty much it. I mean, the whole movie is very much Maverick getting in his own way of living up to his fullest potential. And a lot of sacrifices are made at that expense. Relationships, public opinions of him. The big one being, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the fucking movie, Goose dies, right? His best friend, his second-hand man, it gets killed in one of their... Now, it was a test that they did that just went wrong, right? Because Maverick pushed too far.
They went into like a... it's while they were doing, I don't know, maneuvers or something. The plane went into like a cataclysmic spin that it couldn't get out of. And when they were ejecting, Maverick was able to get out, but like Goose, like there was malfunction. So like Goose like died in the process.
Yeah, what a way to go.
I mean, yeah, no, I don't think of all the ways to go, being hit by the glass of your airplane is not how I would want to go.
Yeah, no, definitely not. So, I was talking to some older siblings of mine about this movie now. I'm like, I don't think it's really an action movie. And they're like, well, you had to have seen it in the theater in the 1980s. And granted, experiences are better and in the movie theater for an action movie or movies with a lot of action in it. And in the 80s, things were different. We didn't get the movies that we've gotten in the last 36 years, so your perception of it was different. But I still wonder, how effective was the action in this film? Now, the first 5 minutes of the film are pretty great, and that's because the film is directed by Tony Scott. And I think Tony Scott is a really underrated filmmaker. He's the brother of Ridley Scott.
Oh.
But he's now deceased. He unfortunately committed suicide a couple years back. And I just think that his filmography is incredibly impressive. So off the top of my head, Top Gun, Beverly Hills Cop 2, The Last Boy Scout, Days of Thunder, True Romance, Crimson Tide, Unstoppable, Man on Fire, Deja Vu.
The original Man on Fire?
The one with Denzel Washington.
Oh, okay, that's a good one.
Yeah, Enemy of the State, that's also Tony Scott. Yeah, these are just like really underrated, really good, tight movies. And of course, Tony Scott's very much like that. We're going to shoot a scene with 15 cameras getting all this type of coverage. So that beginning especially is just like, oh my God, how many different angles and how many different shot sizes are there? It was like so much.
You're talking about like the montage of the ship, right? And
in the beginning. Yeah.
Under Kenny Loggins' Danger Zone.
Yes, that is what I'm talking about. And the rest of the movie, like when they're up in the air, it's very nice to watch, even though it's somewhat confusing sometimes as to where they are and what's going on.
Yeah, I would agree.
They hadn't quite perfected that kind of thing, but it was still like that was, I think, the better parts of the movie. What do you think?
I mean, I don't know. I would agree with you. I don't think that this is necessarily an action film, right? Like even except for the ending where there's an actual like aerial fight, not like training. Well, that's not. I guess we saw it in the beginning, but it was still. Most of this movie is really just seeing. It's just like something happens to Maverick, and then something else happens to him, and then something else, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like. And I feel like even the romance between him and Charlie was kind of a little weak.
Yeah,
right?
So Charlie, played by Kelly McGillis. Do you think they had chemistry?
Yeah. But I just think I think their dialogue sometimes together was a little so hammy.
Oh, yeah. Well, this is a 1980s movie, so the dialogue is not refined by any means. And this was a different era where like things were more so like, this is the decade where we get lines like, I love you, I know, right? Like they're all kind of what we at least would identify now as like tropey lines in like these type of movies. All the tropes that we know and we make fun of came from the 80s, I feel like. Whereas now we're different. And when we get to Top Gun Maverick, I'm going to talk a little bit more about how films kind of play off relationships and the way that the dialogue works. But in the 80s, it was really kind of like, by today's standards, eye-roll-ish.
Yeah.
Just corny cheeseball kind of shit. And this movie is very much that. And I thought that, I don't know if I completely 100% thought that they had chemistry, but I just thought that the script, again, I agree with you that it just wasn't strong enough for them. But again, you know, I don't know if anybody went to this movie to, you know, for the writing. No offense to Jim Cash and Jack Epps Jr.
Yeah. Now, I got a question in terms of like the action sequences, right? A lot of it, do you happen to know if a lot of it was miniatures?
Yeah, so I do know that a lot of it was that they actually made several like fighter squadrons for them to use.
Okay.
So a lot of it was practical things that they'd had shot. But the miniature things, I'm not sure about.
Like some of those action sequences, I'm trying to look that up.
I mean, a lot of time it was like the crew filming the actual fighters, the actual air fighters in the air. You know, and they were just like watching them with their normal procedures and just capturing it. And they did it in Nevada. And they used some like grounded cameras and like, I don't know, I think maybe a couple in the air that they put in the air. But I don't know about miniatures. That's a good fun fact. Maybe we should look that up.
Oh, wait, hang on. Tony Scott relied on using miniatures for most of the missile shooting sequences, since he was only allowed to use footage of 2 real missile launches. There we go.
There you go. So for the missile stuff, but the other stuff, like the training and whatnot, they just filmed, and then they probably put them in a soundstage or something for the rest of it. And yeah, filming things like that was different in the 80s, but even by that standard, I think it's pretty cool. I just loved the way the movie began, and I was kind of like, fuck yeah, let's do this. And then, like, by the time he got to Top Gun, I was like, is this what it's going to
be? Interesting. Yeah, I actually didn't like the beginning.
Oh, really?
So it starts off with, like, the instrumental, right? And then it kind of has, like, a weird transition into Danger Zone.
Yeah.
And it was jarring for me. I was just like, that can't be right. That had to be, like, a editing mistake. That's
I have a surround system at my home, so I liked the way it sounded.
You like the transition?
I liked the transition because you can
abrupt, like kind of.
If you listen on surround sound, you can kind of it is kind of abrupt, but you also can anticipate the change, and it just also like once it comes, like it just when you're surrounded by it, it sounds different, and it sounds really well. By the time, and then like the whole sequence with the MiGs and his buddy kind of like cracking under pressure, I liked that, and I liked the introduction to it, and I love tropes. If I like a genre, I'm here for the tropes, right?
Okay.
So, like, at first I was like, oh, yeah, he's a cocky son of a bitch, and they're making sarcastic comments. Cool. And then it just kind of it got a little too, like, eye-roll tropey instead of, like, I love it tropey. So.
I see. The other thing, my other complaint about it is every time we saw Kate McGinnis, you said, what's her name?
Kelly McGillis.
Kelly McGinnis is
Kelly McGillis, sorry.
McGillis.
Yes.
Like, okay.
Sorry.
Got it. McGillis. Well, it's all right. But every time she came on screen, like, it's just like, take my breath away. It was so fucking corny.
Yeah. That theme song was played a lot. Yeah.
It was stuck to my head. Like, so I went into the theater, and I think it was just like singing it. I was just like,
I feel like they really got their money's worth.
They really did.
Yeah, seriously.
On that song.
I mean,
what's it called?
I love that song,
Oscar.
so I didn't mind it. But I will say that the sex scene in the original movie was a little cringe for me.
Totally. It was awful. It was the unsexiest sex scene I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I'm actually someone who doesn't find Tom Cruise attractive.
Okay.
So that's part of it. The other thing for me, like, it was just like, but it was non-sexual whatsoever, like laying her back and stuff. And
it was
just,
weird.
Like,
it was like supposed to be sort of erotic, but that didn't hit for me. And that was when I was like, these two have no chemistry. Like, these two do not want to fuck. Famously, Tom Cruise's first marriage was ended because he was celibate during it, and she was like, well, if you're not gonna fuck me, then I'm gonna divorce you.
Wait, who was his first marriage?
Mimi Rogers.
I don't know who that is.
Well,
I do know, but I think I know who she is.
And I think she introduced him to Scientology or something.
Oh.
But, So I don't know. It's like he's like really well constructed body-wise. I mean, he's short, whatever. That's not a big deal. But he got a great physique.
He's a short king.
He was handsome back then. So it's just like, why don't these two act like why don't they look like they're interested in having sex with each other? Like, it felt awkward to me. So to me, the relationship was a little like, okay, but I thought that wasn't the prominent relationship in the film. The prominent relationship was with Goose, obviously his best friend, and even to
Who
an
was married
extent
to Meg Ryan, by the
Meg
way.
Ryan, young Meg Ryan, right?
Who looks like shockingly looks older in this movie than she does in the 90s.
It's the hair.
Yeah,
it is
it's
absolutely
so weird. Her haircut. It's such.
It's the hair. She also had like some weird like eyeliner thing going on that was not working for her. It gave her like a smoky eye that was just like making her look a little older.
Yeah, I guess so. It's so crazy because like 4 years later, she makes When Harry Met Sally, and she looks like she's 18. At least in the beginning of it.
Yeah.
So again, haircuts and hairstyles matter. That they either age you or make you look younger. She was good, but Goose, Anthony Edwards is Goose. Did we feel any sort of type of way about him?
I hated his mustache. That's how I felt. No, I mean he was a good foil to Maverick. Maverick is so cocky. Goose was almost a little quieter, a little bit calmer, a little bit cooler under pressure than this guy. And I mean, Goose was fine. I mean, did I feel anything when he died? No. I don't think I did.
Yeah. I mean, I was really trying to tug at our heartstrings, and it was a little. I didn't feel it. I didn't.
Yeah, when he was gripping the body
like
in the water, it's just like,
Yeah.
no. Yeah, they're like, sir, you gotta let go. Sir, you gotta let go. Just like, just let go.
Well, that's also what I kind of was like. Well, that's what you kind of do. Like, but that's what happens when you're a rebel to this extent. Idiot.
This is not what's it called? I know that Memorial Day just passed. I just want to point out that these are fake characters, right? So, like, my feelings here is not at all intended towards real servicemen. This is just for these characters specifically. I just wanted to say that.
And we'll get to that a little later. The last relationship I want to talk about is his relationship with Iceman and the performance by Val Kilmer given in this film. I mean,
Val Kilmer was kind of just as cocky, right?
Yeah,
but,
he was.
But just not as abrasive as Maverick.
So I actually think Val Kilmer is a pretty underrated actor. I think that he understands the assignments of what at least the audience is supposed to feel about his characters, and for the most part, he nails it. And like, he's a cocky motherfucker in this movie. To some point, you do just want to be like, "Shut up, Iceman! Maverick's gonna kick your ass." Like, he just definitely is like, he understands that the audience isn't really supposed to like him, but they're supposed to be that thing where towards the end they do. So he like has to play that sort of dynamic, which I'm sure must be hard for an actor, and I think he actually does it really well.
Yeah, I mean, at no point while I was watching the movie did I not like Iceman, right? Like, I actually at times did not like Tom Cruise's character more.
Yeah, I agree.
Specifically, I guess, like, the chase that he put on for Charlie was kind of a little off-putting because it's just like, first of all, she's your teacher, man. And she said no already once. I think twice in the movie. Before she finally succumbs to the date. His charms,
that's one thing I hate in old movies where it's like no means yes. And it's like no means no.
No means no. What is it? 32 no's, but one yes is still yes. That's from Family Guy. It's like
oh my
funny
God.
Joke.
Yeah, so
it's from
funny.
It's from they would do like it was James Bond. Like, he's like saying it's just like have sex with me. She kept saying no. And then finally, when she says yes, he turns to the camera, and that's what he says. It's like 32 no's and one yes is still a yash. That's because he was like Sean Connery.
That's funny. Yeah, I mean, so another thing about Top Gun, it's maintained its popularity throughout the years. Obviously, it's gotten a highly anticipated sequel. People still quote this movie. The songs, people still know Danger Zone, Take My Breath Away. Mm-hmm. And the other thing...
So it's funny. I actually knew Danger Zone. I knew Danger Zone before I ever seen the movie because I watched the show Archer, and it's constantly referenced. And they have a great country cover featuring Kenny Loggins himself. That's like a great song. I actually prefer that one to like the 80s version, to be honest. Yeah, it's a good cover. Played by Charlene. I actually have it on my iTunes. Yeah. And but Taking My Breath Away, God, what a cheesy 80s song. And then it was covered later on by Jessica Simpson.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, when we did our covers
Remakes?
episode.
Yeah.
I considered bringing that one up because I hate both versions so much.
Wow. I really like the Berlin song.
No. No, I mean, catchy. It's an earworm for sure. And like I said, if you missed it, I just say a well-deserved Oscar because it accomplishes the job. But I think it was just overused. But then I was thinking like Titanic kind of overused that doo-doo-doo, but we never heard her.
Interesting.
They always use like that little, like, that flute.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
This one actually uses straight up lyrics all the fucking time. You know what I mean? Like she's constantly singing. It's annoying. So that just drove me crazy. But I had a question for you.
Okay.
Because you mentioned like this did have long-lasting appeal, right? And I think the movie, The Need for Speed, that's very quotable.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people still reference that gay volleyball scene.
Yes, there's actually this whole article.
Homoerotic.
Yeah.
I guess I should say.
There's this Esquire article by Dave Holmes which says the Top Gun volleyball scene is not homoerotic. It's homosexual.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. Fine.
So it's not even like a thing. But continue.
Well, I was gonna say, what do you think it is about this movie that has like that long-lasting appeal?
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Because I could have gone my whole life without watching Top Gun and feel, and in retrospect, it was just like I wasn't missing anything in my opinion. Like I wasn't gonna. It's not like, oh, I don't know, Nicole. What's like a movie that everyone says you have to see?
E.T.
Rosemary's Baby. E.T.'s not. I don't think E.T. is one of those movies that everyone has to see.
Eddie, what would you say? E.T.? Yes?
I say you're wrong. So you must see E.T. because then how you're not gonna understand the sequel, Batman versus E.T.
There you go.
Call back to last week.
So I feel like a movie that everyone should see is probably The Godfather.
Okay, yeah, there you go. That's a movie that I would agree with you. Right? Top Gun is certainly not one of those movies, and yet it has such longevity, right? Because it's still pop culturally relevant. I don't know. Can you muster up any ideas to like what it is?
Yeah, so I do think that people love escapism films. They like seeing, people that they can relate to, but that are also like kind of a tier up so that they can put themselves in that situation.
Do you think we can relate to Tom Cruise's Maverick?
Well, he's kind of like your outcast or average Joe, and in a way, he's an underdog. Americans love underdog stories, right? He's like not listening to the rule, and he's doing his own thing, and he's not even supposed to be there. So he's like just trying to prove himself all the time. But he has
daddy issues.
He has daddy issues. He's playing by his own rules, and also it just has like it's flying planes, and it's just like. Not here for common sense or anything like that. It's just here to have a good time. That's also incredibly American.
Okay. Yeah.
I think so. I think it just hits like a fantasy kind of thing that we've all wanted. But this came out in 1986. That's Reagan era. That's Wall Street. That's denying that the gay crisis is a thing. Whitewashing to the heaviest, focusing on heterosexual type stories and all this stuff. So like, and also in the 80s, everything just had to end with a wrapped in a bow tie and presented nicely to everyone. Like there was no villains. There weren't any like villain-driven movies or like movies that ended tragically. Like 80s movies didn't really push boundaries. And there's something kind of, and I'm probably coming off really like insulting to the 80s, but that's just like that was the trend then, and this was also again this was the Reagan era, and you kind of have to think about that Reagan era mindset. And then maybe you could see why it was kind of the perfect like God Bless America movie to come out in an age where people were like so patriotic, and yet the country was kind of like coming apart. So it's kind of beautiful ignorance too, which is also unfortunately something that Americans are good at. I'm like tearing America, but I'm an American, so I can like say this because I'm an American. But
I feel like, I think that's all fair.
But there's interesting because there's a movie that Quentin Tarantino was in called Sleep With Me, and he gives this whole monologue about Top Gun, and he says, it's really quick. He said, "You've got Maverick, all right. He's on the edge, man. He's right on the fucking line, all right. And you've got Iceman and all his crew. They're gay. They represent the gay man. And they're saying, go all the way, go." And you could go both ways. Kelly McGillis, she's heterosexuality. She's saying, no, go the normal way, play by the rules. But they're saying, no, go the gay way, be the gay way, go for the gay way. And that's what's going on the whole movie. Do you agree with that?
I mean, that's a read for sure.
Yeah. And maybe it has to deal with, like, this was, again, the AIDS crisis was coming out and everyone was ignoring it. People maybe subconsciously being like, yeah, maybe we are gay. But I'm doing this read because after we talk about Top Gun Maverick, I have a read about why this movie is also hitting right now.
Okay.
So should we segue to Maverick?
I mean, yeah, let's talk about Top Gun Maverick.
So Top Gun Maverick was released in Memorial Day weekend 2022 after 3 years of being like pretty much
delayed.
Announced and delayed.
Oh, no. It was like 12 years of being announced. This movie was announced in 2010.
But like green lit, and then like we're starting to shoot in 2017, right? I think it was supposed to come out in 2019, but then they had to postpone that because they had to do some reshoots. Then it was supposed to come out in 2020, but everybody knows what happened, the pandemic. And then they were just like, we have to release this in a theater. When are people going to be ready to go back to the theater? And it's 2 years later. And people are ready to go back to the theater because the amount of people who are 35 and older showed up for this movie. And they have been consistently not showing up for movies, statistically speaking. And this movie opened domestically to 150 million box office. And I think worldwide it's like at least in the 300 million.
Okay.
So it's been doing incredibly well. I think it's the highest grossing Memorial Day opening. I think it's the highest grossing opening weekend for a Tom Cruise movie. And I might even say it's the highest grossing opening for a Paramount movie. So it's been doing exceptionally well this past weekend. It's only been out for like 4 or 5 days. No, wait. I forgot what day of the week it is. It's been doing consistently well for almost a week now. So yeah.
Yes.
This movie is not directed by Tony Scott, unfortunately, as we said. He is passed, but they did honor it to him. They did, say the movie is dedicated to Tony Scott at the end.
Mm-hmm.
And this movie, I think, not too many people have returned other than Tom Cruise and Val Kilmer for this film.
No Meg Ryan, no Kelly McGillis.
Nope, no Kelly McGillis.
Gillis.
Yeah.
Who actually, she has a very funny quote. Can I just read you this quote that she gave?
Please.
In I think it was or Entertainment Tonight. Entertainment Tonight in 2019 about the movie, right? Why wasn't she involved? And this is what she said, quote, I mean, I'm old and I'm fat and I look age appropriate for what my age is. And that is not what this whole scene is about, end quote. So,
there you go. That's pretty terrible, but I guess it's true.
I mean, I saw. She looks like an age-appropriate woman. I'm not saying anything's wrong with that. But I mean, compared, I guess, to Jennifer Connelly, right?
Yeah, who is apparently a callback to the original film.
Yeah, apparently she was referenced in after Maverick got in trouble. They brought up Penny. Yeah,
the Admiral's daughter. So yeah, so if you've seen Top Gun more than 20 times, then you know exactly who she's supposed to be. But then everyone else is completely brand new for the film, with a cast that includes Miles Teller, who is Rooster, Goose's son, who wants to take up after his father. John Hamm
has beef with Maverick.
And has beef with Maverick, of course. John Hamm as Cyclone, who is pretty much the antagonist / boss of Maverick.
Actually, well,
okay, yeah,
yeah, he is like the thorn, but like we actually have, unlike the first Top Gun, we have an actual conflict right from the get-go.
Yes.
So we actually have to like real antagonists, who they are, like what country they represent,
unknown enemy,
unknown
enemy,
which I'm actually totally fine with.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I am too. I found it a little interesting because it was the most nondescript enemy.
Yeah. But it was blank, like fill in your own blank kind of a thing. And it won't date the movie. So.
Yes, exactly. I told you it would be timeless.
Yes. We also have to complete the casting: Glenn Powell, Louis Pullman, Ed Harris, as I said, Val Kilmer, Jay Ellis, and the girl who played Phoenix, her name is Monica Barbaro. Or Barbaro. I might have said that wrong. Yeah. Top Gun Maverick. It doesn't really have a date to it, but pretty much it's been 36 years, and that sounds like a pretty good timeline for this movie. Pete Mitchell, he has avoided rising the ranks in the U.S. Navy, you know, aviation, because he doesn't want to be grounded, and he knows that if he does, he will be. He just wants to keep flying. And when the film begins, he is testing a new kind of, he's like a test pilot, and he's trying some sort of like supersonic dark star jet, and they're trying to bring it to Mach 10. You know, all
is that what they described it? Okay.
Yeah,
I just remember
like
they were testing out an airship to break Mach 10. He again got a little cocky, and the ship goes kablooey.
And he went a little too far. Yep.
And then as a result, now here's actually, I thought this part of the film actually gave up something interesting that wasn't explored. It was a theme that I thought we were gonna like explore for this movie, right? Which is just like drones are the future.
Yes.
And he is very much a relic of the past, and yet the whole movie ignores that because we're focusing on these fighter planes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they bring it
So
up
it's
like
just,
once, like Ed Harris.
Yeah, and I thought, I thought that was like, I actually thought, oh, this is gonna be a nice movie to see, like, you know, because let's be real, Tom Cruise is very much a relic of the past. He's like the last movie star of his type anymore, right? The kind of guy who practices and does the theatrics that you see on screen. Like he you know, he flies actual planes, he jumps, he climbs buildings, he, you know, most of that shit now is covered by CGI.
Yeah, not even a stunt team. And they do the minimal stuff. So Ed Harris says to the character, you know, like the future is coming and you're not in it, essentially.
Right.
And
which is funny coming from an old guy.
I know, right?
You know what I mean?
He's like
they should have,
and
they should have made it a younger person who is
not necessarily, because Kane, Admiral Kane, I mean, he's pushing in this like, I like money. So I want this money for my project, which is the whole drone thing, that kind of thing. And the great line as Maverick walks out is, "But I'm here today."
Yeah, but not today.
You know,
yeah,
not today.
Yeah,
not today, Satan. I'm still here.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm still here.
Yeah, it's like
you automatically you see something like, I was going in here, I'm saying, oh my God, it's gonna be some hetero push in your face. This is like a military advertising. I mean, 2 hours here is gonna be about join the Navy, that kind of thing. I was already coming in for a bad plot, bad everything. I just sat down. I had my arms crossed. I was like,
oh yeah,
okay.
you were. So I won't lie, I was also not too pleased to see this movie. Like, I think I was complaining to Eddie about it. He was like, why are we fucking covering this? I'm ready to quit the podcast. I am so done. Like, I can't. I'm going to the movies for this. I want to see Bob's Burgers.
Yes.
Which we did.
We did.
Oh. Did you do a double feature?
No, we saw Bob's. We paid full price for Bob's Burgers, not for Top Gun. All right.
Yes.
Was it good?
Oh yeah,
it was very enjoyable. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Sidebar, guys. Sorry, I'm talking about Bob's Burgers here, but Bob's Burgers,
movie.
I way more like, I thought it was gonna fall under that pit of like the Simpsons movie was gonna be like kind of corny and whack. They figured out a good formula of like having all the stories, like all the major characters of Bob's Burgers, like the family had an important role in the film, unlike the Simpsons movie where it was just a Homer Simpson movie, really. And Marge, kind of, right?
Yes.
Like, this one, actually, all the key players had a key role in the plot, and it all culminates at the end. I thought it was wonderfully done. I actually thought it was like a very much an enjoyable movie.
Oh, that's good. Okay. But
so I paid full price for that one. Very happy. And then I paid, you know, my Tuesday dollar cheap tickets for Top Gun. And like Eddie said, it's just like, I did not want to see this movie. I had just finished seeing the original Top Gun. I'm just like, oh my God, this movie's not even that good. Why are we covering this? And here we are.
Okay, so let me get back to my story, because I haven't finished yet.
Ooh,
so
okay, sorry.
All right, so I'm there, and then you see this character Maverick. He's like, Kane said, this is it. We're not even gonna fly. It's like, it's not gonna happen. And Maverick's like, I'm gonna do it anyway. He's like, okay. He's like, once again, he's like, I have to be the center of attention, that kind of thing. But I said, no. As you learn, you know, he says, I'm doing it to save the project here. It's like, I'm going to be done. Like, once I land, I'm going to be in so much ass trouble. They're going to kick me out. But you guys will have your job. You guys will have your money, and you guys will have the project. And it'll keep people in the sky. Because once again, it's the idea of these drones. You know, you think about how Maverick's perspective is like, you know, I was made for speed. I was made to fly.
Yep.
Here, and this project is gonna take people out of the sky, so to speak.
Right.
You're gonna lose those pilots, and you're just gonna have a robot doing it here. But now you're like, wow, he does this, and he's like, I don't care what happens to me. But as long as, you guys are still here, you guys still doing, you guys still experimenting, figuring out new ways for us to go faster.
Yeah.
That's more important. So I'm like, okay, I like this guy. Let's see what happens next.
Yeah, they matured him up, and they did that pretty well in the first scene.
Well, thank God, after 36 years, he's kind of grown up a little bit.
Well, only a little bit. Well, it's
interesting.
Let's not go crazy.
Because my experience was that I was away at the beach this weekend, but I was like, I kind of want to see this either on a Friday or a Saturday. So I went, and I saw it at a theater down the shore, and I paid full price for it. I think I saw it at 9:30 on, I think it was Friday. And it was a really great theater, first of all. Stone Harbor Theater in New Jersey is fantastic. And it was packed. I heard so many people talk. I heard one person being like, we're going to be late. And she's like, it starts in 5 minutes. As I went to get popcorn, I was like, oh, my God, people are anticipating this movie.
Mm-hmm.
And people were just bored probably, but okay.
The movie had an intro by Tom Cruise himself. That was just hey. Thank you for coming to see this movie that we worked so hard on for you, right?
Is that included in the runtime?
I don't think so. It was 30 seconds.
I was very angry at that intro.
God.
I did not. I don't
we
care
don't get
for
that
it.
anymore. We don't get people who are like, "Hey, this movie means so much that," or like, "We wanted it to bring it to you so much that." We present you this. Enjoy.
We've been getting that after the pandemic. Like in the last year, I've been seeing that a lot more and more. And
what was the other time you see it?
I don't remember what movie.
I don't remember another time.
I've never seen this.
I think it was a Marvel movie.
haven't.
I've never seen this.
I haven't seen it either.
I swear it's become more common after the pandemic, where like you have like a celebrity say like, "Thank you so much for coming."
I think. Wait. Are you sure you're not like mixing this up? And please donate to the Children's Hospital Foundation. Your cell phones, turn them off.
Nor am I confusing
popcorn
this.
concessions.
Nor am I confusing this with like Nicole Kidman,
tip your waiter.
talking about her movie Silver Screen
AMC
Experiences.
thing,
No,
I'm
actually talking about like there'll be a celebrity talking head thanking you for coming to the theater. I want to say the last one that comes to mind was a Disney movie where all the voice actors kind of were on screen before. It's like, thank you guys for coming and stuff.
What was it, Encanto or something?
It might have been Encanto, actually.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, I have not seen that for any film.
Yeah.
And you know what? I actually didn't mind it. I was like, that's right, Top Gun. I mean, I called him Top Gun. That's right, Tom Cruise. Prep us up for what we're about to fucking watch. And then the movie begins, and it's the same exact opening as the first one. To the point where I was even like, did they get the movie wrong? Like, this is exactly how the original opens.
I also thought the same thing, too, with that awful transition.
Oh. Well, I thought it before that, but then when it said Maverick. And then I was kind of like, oh, no, this is going to be another film that just recycles the plot of the first. But then it didn't, right?
Same.
After the opening,
also.
It changed. And I thought about it afterwards, and I've come to the conclusion that they kept it the same because it's a strong opening, and it was their kind of like homage to Tony Scott, who couldn't be here for that. And in that lens, I loved it. The movie, now I'm going to skip forward to the end and how it has that classic ending where it just shows everyone's name and who they played. And when Tom Cruise came up, that entire audience clapped.
Really?
Yes.
I was walking out.
People love him, and they have respect for him. No, I mean, well, yeah. No, please, any opportunity you have to just contradict him, take it.
No, I think we did say.
No, you won't.
I think we say during the pictures.
Because we've been how do you say, conditioned to say if there's any
end credit scenes.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Marvel has trained us well, so.
Yeah. Now, Tom Cruise, he's kind of crazy. He's kind of, who knows what the fucking deal is with him. But, like, he does his own stunts, and he really cares about making movies the old-fashioned way and making movies that will get people to the fucking theater. And I think he delivered, and his team, and Joseph Kosinski, and everyone behind this movie really delivered for this film.
Oh, yeah, no, I would agree with this. Like, this movie is... excellent practical filmmaking. I mean, the fact that you have these actors training and you can tell when they're on green screen and when they're not, and they're not. They're just not on green screen in this movie. At no point do they have the planes, like, I'm sure with the explosions are probably CGI'd, but a lot of that was actually shot. You know what I mean?
Yeah. These actors had to go through a 3-month boot camp to train them for being flown by these pilots to get the shots, right? So they went through all of this training that these naval aviators do in order to withstand the G-forces of being in the cockpit, right? Then when they were in the planes being rode around by pilots, they had 6 cameras. They had 2 in the middle to get a wide and a close-up. They had 2 on each wings, and then they had 1 in the back and to like the POV shot. So they had all these cameras, and pretty much once the pilots, went off flight, it was up to the actors. That's a fucking lot. So not only Tom Cruise, but the rest of that cast to be able to like act and direct themselves up in the fucking air like that, that's astounding. Like I can't think of another film like that.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. But apparently they had like over 800 hours of footage because it would take. I mean, I think the director said they could film like for like 6 hours and have only like 1 minute of usable footage.
That's insane. Isn't that crazy? That, and like the amount of reshoots they must have done. Like, but they they went deep to make this movie.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense why Tom Cruise pushed so hard for this movie to be released only in theaters and not. I'm certain Paramount was like salivating to just have this be a Paramount Plus exclusive. But Tom Cruise apparently fought hard for this to be in theaters, and
he's their star. He like right now, Tom Cruise is kind of carrying Paramount with this in the Mission Impossible franchise, and like he pretty much works exclusively for them. And I can't think of another star who is like pretty much like carrying a studio. Like I could think of a franchise, but I can't think of a star, which is pretty crazy. And he is the last of his kind. Which is why, 36 years later, for you to make a film that's quite frankly better than the original film that everyone loves is quite the feat. And, that's why it's, it was kind of cute to see everyone clap for him at the end. Because it's, kudos, sir.
Yeah. Well, I know no one clapped at the end.
Yeah, so the interesting thing, too, is, one of those movies that I felt like, oh, this would have been nice with a packed theater.
Yes, it would have been.
I feel like it was so funny because it was one of those first.
Our row was packed.
Yeah, our row was packed. So it was third row. C row is where we usually go, and this was this particular film. Basically, it was just that's where everybody went.
I was so mad.
Empty theater except C row. All right. So I was tight because I have to see this movie and I have to sit next to strangers.
Yeah.
But there were certain points where I was oh my God, this is a point I know people would cheer or clap or go yeah, that kind of thing.
Yep. That's what happened for me. The energy is different when you see it opening night or opening weekend, and I was I have to for this movie, and I'm really glad that I did.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay that I didn't, to be quite honest. But I'm glad I started in theaters. I will admit.
Well, yes, I'm really glad that you guys agree with the fact that seeing it in the theater was a good call.
Oh yeah, I will say this: I regret not seeing it in IMAX, right?
Because that's what or Dolby Cinema.
This was made for. Yeah, there's no Dolby Cinema for the carousels, unfortunately.
Oh, we'll just go to a different theater. I think I might go see it again.
Absolutely not. No.
Are you crazy?
No seats are as comfortable as the carousel seat, and I will take comfort.
It is a pretty good theater.
I will take comfort over sound quality.
Well, let's talk about what Top Gun Maverick is essentially about. So he's recruited by Top Gun at the insistence of Iceman, who is.
I'm sorry,
sick.
They made it abundantly clear he wasn't recruited, he was ordered to Top Gun.
This is true. Yes. He was pretty much like we're closing down this shit and you're going to come to Top Gun to teach for a super secret mission. By the way, that shot when he's taken off the plane and then Ed Harris gets out of the car and watches him and then the plane flies
was a cool shot.
over.
Yeah.
They did that in one take.
Oh, did they?
And it wasn't supposed to blow the building up. And so everything that happened was organic.
Wait, what building?
So
behind
there was
the security guard.
Yeah, there was a little shack there. Yeah,
the shack thing.
Oh,
yeah,
really?
It got blown.
That's so funny. I was more impressed that
Ed Harris.
That's what I was more impressed. I didn't even notice the building. I'm just wow, look at him just standing there.
No, I thought the whole shot was so cool. So I of course watched this whole thing, and this is where I found that out. So that's that. So he goes back to Top Gun, and the first thing he does is go to a bar, and he sees his old love there, Petty, played by Jennifer Connelly, who not only is super hot for her age, but has a great fashion sense, although she has a terrible rule of making people who put their cell phones on the bar pay for everyone's drinks in the bars. That's just wrong.
That's so weird. And it's, first of all, like
robbery.
It's like it's like
it's terrible. Like the sign is not anywhere clear.
I know. They could be $600 right there.
Yeah, like I would go broke if that happened to me. I would cry.
Yes.
You know.
Oh, Kelly McGillis is older than Tom Cruise. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But no, I mean, you know, Jennifer Connelly is 51. I mean, look, she looks phenomenal. But man, we're putting these like really awful standards of beauty on like women as they get older.
Part of me is,
but the thing with her too is she. It's something very interesting about her. So she's like an 80s queen. Like she's in all these 80s movies, really popular movies.
Yeah.
You know, and she's always kind of kept that. She's very beautiful. But she's always kind of kept that kind of look about her. And I felt like there was something very like 80s about her presence being in this movie.
I agree with you though. I thought
like
smart casting on their part.
Yeah.
You know, and she has this subtleness about her. I think you could tell, like, I don't know. I always say like her presence has this subtle like build up, like you're like in her presence and it's like, oh my God, you are so amazing.
Yeah.
She gives me right now the same Marissa Tomei. Marissa
Oh, Marissa Tomei is so hot still. Yeah.
Now, Nicole, I'm sorry. Before we cut you off, you were about to say something about like this new standard of beauty that we're putting on women of a certain age.
I mean, how interesting would it have been if they were like, you know what, Kelly? Fuck it, you're coming back, and like, yeah, you age just like Top Gun. I mean, Top Cruise. I keep calling him Top Gun. Just like Tom Cruise. But you know, like, you're perfect the way you are. Like, how cool would that have been?
I mean, but
she
the thing
looks truly terrible. I don't know.
She does. Oh no, she looks. I've looked at pictures of her and I saw this interview. She looks fine. She looks like a healthy 64-year-old woman.
Yeah.
You know?
So like, it's just that's.
But I know what the thing is. It's Tom Cruise does not look like he's 59 years old. That's the thing, right? Like, so I understand why. But and also it would have changed the character, right? Like if he can still keep up his physique, but he's still like madly in love with this woman who looks her age, right? I guess that's the way to say it. Like that means that on some level he has matured, and that's not the Tom Cruise necessarily that we have seen, because the whole point with Penny was just like he's still kind of in this like this immature on and off again relationship that, like, you know, usually you expect people to figure out by the time they're in their late 30s, you know?
Yeah. It's very true. I guess I'll give them a pass in that sense. But
no, I'm not giving them a pass on not casting Kelly for this. I'm just, you know, I say be smarter. But, you know, for what they did, I think is, you know, it is what it is.
Well, yeah. So, but Kelly and Meg Ryan were both, you know, not asked to be back. I wonder why they didn't ask Meg Ryan, but she's not essential.
I'm so curious,
to it.
right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, but she's a mom.
Well, she
could have had a role
one,
or two.
So she could have, since she's famous and she was in the first one, she could have at least made like a sneak, you know, like a cameo. But they were like not going there.
No, they didn't.
Yeah.
So Maverick is brought to Top Gun and is briefed by the Vice Admiral, who they call Coyote, played by John Hamm, who is pretty much saying, "Look,
Cyclone."
Yeah, that was I said that.
You said Coyote.
I said Coyote. Okay, I'm sorry, Cyclone.
Yeah.
And pretty much they have a mission, a super secret mission, which is pretty much we want you to bomb an unsanctioned uranium enrichment. Now, I just want to say that this is a brilliant MacGuffin, right? Because even though they tell you what the plan is, it doesn't really matter.
Right.
All you know is that they have to fucking do it, and they have to go up crazy hills and down crazy hills, and they have to do it in 2 minutes.
Oh yeah. It gives you, but they also introduce stakes. Like we know
what will happen. Yeah.
Yes, if this uranium plant keeps running for another 3 weeks, it's going to pose a threat to all our NATO allies. It created stakes that the original one desperately needed. It gave us a reason, like, okay, we have X amount of time to train these kids, right? Because they're basically kids.
Yeah.
To fight this battle. Basically.
Yeah, no. And I got the mission, right? I got what was needed. I got the circumstances and I got the consequences. And the sequences that had to do with the mission, I was never confused. Mm-hmm. I understood exactly what was happening, where I was, and, you know, what could happen from it. And I just want to say that's actually pretty cool because the first movie, not everything was super clear sometimes when they were in the air. Yeah. It was incredibly clear this entire movie, every time they were in the air, what was going on.
And that's the power of, I don't know, I don't want to call it set design, but I guess I don't know if those 5th generation MiGs from The Enemy are like based off of a real design, but they look distinctly different from our side, right? Our F-19s, I think is what they were using. Mm-hmm. And because of how starkly different they were, we were able to differentiate, okay, these are the good guys, these are the bad guys and stuff. Where I think in the original one, like, they all kind of look the same.
Yeah. Okay.
It would be the problem.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I thought, you know, I'm just going to say right now, the action sequences were fucking terrific and just really suspenseful and exciting and really well done. I mean, the sequence when Maverick goes rogue after, you know, the Iceman thing, and he does the mission in the time that it's supposed to, was just so great.
15 seconds less.
A little less, yeah. And like, you're watching it, and Tom Cruise is doing, like, there are moments where Tom Cruise, you see his face trying to get through the scene, even though the G-forces are really getting to the plane. And it's just like, yo, he's doing the best he can up in the air, dealing with whatever he's feeling right now. And it's really, really cool to watch.
Yes.
I thought it was just, so overall, action-wise, loved this fucking movie. I loved the ending. You know, it kind of had like 2 endings to it, just like the Batman, but it didn't feel super long. It actually felt organic and fine.
Okay, I disagree. This is it. So I actually think if the movie had ended where that first ending came, and we just had like an ending where we get another funeral and like we have our characters say goodbye, I think it would have been like perfect. This was actually a very well done movie.
The whole movie was classic and corny and cheeseball. You can't end it with such a sour note.
Here's the thing. I think
that would have been a tone shift. With it,
I think because here's where I think the tone shift happened. Now all of a sudden, like Goose and Maverick became almost larger than life. Rooster, was it Rooster? No, Goose.
His son in the second one.
No. Rooster. Whatever. Rooster, I'm sorry. Whatever. Bird creature they are. But they became like larger than life, right? Like they're like an enemy zone. They had to go steal a plane and all this stuff. Now they're gonna fight with these 3 new generational airplanes versus this old dilapidated. I just find it felt just like everything prior to that felt like almost realistic, and this kind of started feeling a little bit too superhuman, right? Like too out of the realm of reality, in my opinion. And I thought this is kind of where it lost me.
It goes back to
not that it lost me. I still enjoyed it.
It goes back to what he believes, though. It's like it's not about the plane; it's about the pilot.
Yeah,
and that's what he was teaching. That the whole point of Advanced Top Gun Academy at this point is, I'm going to teach you these skills, and you're the best of the best, but you're gonna even be better. You know, and that's the idea. Like you give these skills, you create these amazing pilots, and you can do these kind of missions without drones or without the high risk of failure or death. Because that great scene is like, the whole idea is for them to come back, right? And second one is like, I don't think so. That kind of thing. It's like, no, because I'm training them to come back.
Yep. And just to piggyback off of Eddie, and to make a pun that is totally intended, I'm not looking to have anything grounded in reality here. Okay, like this is pure fantasy. And at the end of the day, if he gets stuck on enemy lines, he's gonna infiltrate their thing, and he's gonna steal one of their ancient planes, and he's gonna fly himself and his best friend's son home. Okay.
I think all that but I think the movie was doing such a good job of making me believe that everything that they were doing was plausible. I think it's just that ending where it's just got a little bit just implausible.
But I don't understand. And I just felt why is it implausible for someone to be like, I'm not gonna let this man die. This man who's my father die. Like, and I'm gonna come back.
But that's not no. That's not the I guess
him coming back,
two
like him
planes crashing, and then like having 2 survivors already red flags in my opinion.
Well, I mean, but like they're planes, they have to be set up for things where if something goes wrong, they can successfully eject, or else we'd have
they
a
got
million
shot by
dead
torpedoes.
pilots. Okay,
And that's
so,
how we use
so
drones
you
nowadays.
think that the plausibility is that whole fucking mission, and you're like, oh, this is so realistic, but then when they escape, it's not realistic? Like
the escape, I think, is a more unrealistic part. I think they should have just killed off Tom Cruise, and that's it. We could have just. I think the better movie would have just killed off Tom Cruise right then and there.
No, I completely disagree. I think people would have been incredibly outraged by that.
And that's okay.
Yes.
I think it's okay for people to be incredibly outraged.
And again, it would have been a complete like left turn, but not for the better. You know, sometimes movies do that where they'll just shift and it will go somewhere else, and you're like, whoa, but it's awesome. It would not have been awesome in this case.
I don't know.
I think you would have been the only one there, been like, I'm
satisfied. By no means, I still enjoyed the movie. Like, this isn't the ending that like ruined it for me. I just think a smarter movie would have just killed Tom Cruise then and there. But Tom Cruise is so afraid of death. He would never.
You also didn't wait 36 years for this movie to see him die like that. Like Maverick,
you're right. I waited like a couple of hours to see. I practically saw these movies back to back.
Look, a lot of these remakes and revivals and long-awaited sequels, they're fan service. What kind of fucking fan service is that?
Yeah, I don't know how much fan service this was. I don't know. Okay, I think this movie actually is good because I was thinking about it. If you took out all the elements that made this a Top Gun movie, this still would have been a very good movie, like independent.
Yes,
right? This was just a good movie.
Well, it wasn't like bogged down by trying to compare itself to the original, like The Force Awakens or the new Ghostbusters, where it was almost too much and the movie couldn't actually be itself, more so in the Ghostbusters Afterlife case, because it was just so busy trying to deliver fan service to people that there were sequences that are like, what the hell is doing here? Like with the marshmallow puff thing in the new movie. Like, what the fuck is this? This movie actually had its own story and it was able to be free, but to deliver on things that people wanted to see. You know, like him riding his motorcycle or him doing his flybys or Great Balls of Fire. You know, just like these little callbacks that you've seen and you kind of want to see again, but they don't like completely take away from the film. And if you've never seen the first Top Gun, it still works. Like he's just there playing the piano. You know, he's just there doing his own thing.
Even though I still have an issue with driving a motorcycle without a helmet.
Oh yeah, they were.
I did. It just that's one of my pet peeves of just like, this is just trying to be cool.
Yeah, that would have been a more interesting death if all of a sudden he hit a pebble and then he just fell over and cracked his skull open.
Yeah, I would have been like, I told you should have wore a helmet.
And that's
Has
why.
Tom Cruise ever died in any of his movies?
I don't know. But imagine, and then it became like an Arrested Development episode. And it's like, and that's why you always wear a helmet. So let's talk a little bit about some of the performances, right? Because that's a little bit of, we talked story and action, but we got a whole cast here. We talked about Jennifer Connelly. Let's talk about Val Kilmer.
Yeah, Val Kilmer begged to be in this film, right? He begged to like.
He campaigned for it. Yes.
Oh no! He said in his like biography he begged. Like he used those words. He begged.
What biography? What are you talking about?
He wrote about. He's like. He's dying of cancer. Like.
Oh, so he wrote like a book.
He wrote a biography. Yeah.
And he said he begged for it.
He begged. He has admitted he begged. Like because they were gonna proceed without him after like the surgery that he had for his throat because he really can't speak. But he begged like to let him come back. And I think he's even credited with like having the idea of like how to handle Iceman in this film, right? So, for the spoiler, I mean, we spoiled the shit out of this movie already for you guys, but Iceman dies. It's implied that he has another, his cancer has returned, right? And he's pushing for Maverick the whole time. He's like the only one who's on Maverick's side. He's the only reason that Maverick hasn't been fired from the Navy. And that's why he like goes rogue and does his own thing because after Iceman dies, Cyclone is pretty much like, we don't need you anymore, goodbye. And again, so what? Cyclone was right.
Why was Cyclone just such an antagonist of him? Like the moment he saw him, like they weren't even the same class. He doesn't know him. What's his beef?
Well, I think it's because Maverick, they're military. They're military and military play by the rules. They're supposed to be order, right? Like it's supposed to. There's a chain of command, and you're supposed to follow that chain of command. Maverick is always going rogue, and like, I don't know, like if I'm someone who's always following the rule, and there's this one jackass who never does and always gets away with it, I'd be pissed too.
Okay, I guess. I mean, he's never really directly worked with Maverick, it seems. Like,
but he said it right there. It's like, oh, your
about.
reputation precedes you. You're like, oh, thank you. It's like, that wasn't a compliment.
No, whatever. I don't know. I mean, again, it felt like an antagonist for antagonist's sake, but, you know.
No, he made sense. Like, I mean, everyone in the military seems to hate him. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, no, he definitely. Well, that's the thing. So the script of this movie, in my opinion, isn't that great. Like
certainly better than the original.
It calls back to the 80s, and it's like, we're gonna be cheesy and cornball all over again. Like that. The one thing that was refreshing was that this film wasn't very like ironic and sarcastic like new films are, because like everyone does things with like self-awareness and is like poking fun at themselves, and that's how like movies like are funny now. Whereas like there's not cheeseball movies anymore. There's no like overtly corny and proud of it things. So watching that, I was like, wow, I feel like I'm watching a movie from the 80s in the theater. Like, I just don't see this type of film in this tone anymore. But if someone wasn't fucking talking about Maverick, then someone was antagonizing Maverick, or just like adding to his, like, every single scene was about Maverick. Now, I know it's called Top Gun Maverick, but you introduce
his name is in the title.
All these people, and most of the time, they're just talking about Maverick. And, I mean, we got Hangman, played by Glenn Powell. We got Bob by Lewis Pullman. Like, we have one sequence where Maverick is there watching, but we have one sequence where they're really just allowed to be themselves. Other than that, we don't really get to know them.
Wait, what sequence? A football sequence?
Well, no, that was like a montage. I'm talking about when they're playing pool.
Oh.
And they're like talking, and you know, they're like they're kidding with one another, and then the bets are coming off. Like,
at the beginning of the film. I was
yeah.
about to say, what part is it? Okay.
But that's it. You know, what other scenes do we have? And then it's like, when, you know, the team is picked, the only team I really felt like was going to make it was Phoenix and Bob. Like, wasn't really like rooting for anyone, you know? And when Hangman, who's the most like Maverick, wasn't furthered as a character, I was like, well, then what purpose does he have? You know? So, I don't know. It was just, I mean, at the end he came through, but it wasn't even like, it just was kind of there. So, you know, that kind of script thing didn't really, it was just, but at the same time, I just thought it was like such a fun and action-packed movie that in those cases I forgave it. But those are my qualms, you know, with the script.
Oh, okay. I have different qualms with the casting.
Okay.
So, right off the bat, this cast is a lot more diverse than the original. We even have a female pilot. I think we have 2 female pilots.
I think so.
But I need to come up with something new, similar to the Bechdel test, in which it is, does this film have minorities in it?
Yeah.
Do these minorities speak to each other? And more importantly, does the 2 minorities speaking to each other further the plot? Because we had lots of minority characters here, but at no point did any of them advance the plot.
Yeah.
I mean, they were not even, like, they were literal background characters at times, you know what I mean?
I mean,
so
to be fair, though,
that was a little, I noticed that. I'm just saying.
Everyone was a background character to Maverick at this point. I mean, the only one that kind of got, you know, a boost up was Rooster. And that was at the end.
Yeah, I mean, but Rooster, Rooster actually had like well, I mean, for that point, make Hangman, for example, then, you know, go out of your way to cast like either a black pilot there or...
Yeah, of course. You know, the 2 main ones are white guys, of course. Yeah.
Like, I understand why, I mean, you know, Goose was white, so like his child has to be white too. That makes sense. Meg Ryan, you know, actress, but like I don't think she was playing Hispanic in the 80s. Well, so, you know,
there were a couple scenes though where Maverick as a character made it very clear how much his people mean to him. You know, in the beginning when he goes and does the Mach 10 because he wants to make sure that he does it for his team, and then when they're prepping for the mission and they fail, he's like, "What happened?" And he's like, "Oh, well, this happened." He's like, "Tell it to their family." You know, like he's like thinking about the family and the people that you go home to, and you have to tell why things fuck up. Like at the end of the day, it's not just about us; it's about other people. And yet there's such like this team mentality. You know, it's like, oh, you wanted a team, there's your team. You know, taking care of people. But that doesn't translate to Tom Cruise, who isn't really willing to share as much screen time with his team. Now, of course, he opened the film with this, you know, he's talking to us as the movie. Like, I made this movie for you, and I waited this long to do it right for you. You know, Tom Cruise does want to come off as like someone who cares so much for everybody and stuff. And in a way, I get it. There's like that famous tape of him yelling at people because they're violating COVID-19 protocols and putting other people in harm. You know, it does actually seem to be, it does seem to be somewhat of a concern for him and like other people's well-beings. I just wish he was a little bit more gracious with the other actors in this film because we didn't really get to know them.
Yeah, I mean, I forgive that only because the movie is called Top Gun Maverick, right? It's not Top Gun Goose.
Rooster.
No, Rooster?
Yeah.
Whatever.
I mean, I understand, and that's why I forgive it. But at the same time, you could have given them a little bit more screen time.
I suppose you could have developed these characters a little more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fine.
So
I suppose.
we've been talking about this for a while. Let's start wrapping this up and ask some questions, right? The first question that's a little different.
Giving me homework.
We'll do that next week. The first question is actually really different. Do you think that this was propaganda?
No, I actually don't. I thought that going in, this movie was gonna be like one of those like America, fuck yeah kind of movies. It really wasn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't like glorifying the Navy in any way. Like Transformers is actually more propaganda than this one. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I agree. I thought it would be. I thought it would be like this whole like recruitment for the military industrial complex, but there weren't like any scenes that felt overtly
American, and I think that might be because
like forced patriotism.
Yeah, I mean, you have to market this internationally, right? So I don't know how much patriotism pays off in that sense.
But do you think there are people who watch this film and do kind of get like
absolutely? I saw a what's it called when I was on browsing YouTube doing research for this movie. Like behind the scenes stuff, Ben Shapiro is just sucking Tom Cruise's dick in his review for this movie, you know? So, yeah, no. Do conservatives still get a boner for seeing planes and representing America? Of course.
No, well, that's not the movie's fault, though. At least I can say that. You know, people can read whatever they like from a film.
Absolutely. I didn't think this movie was particularly propagandist, right? I actually thought this was just a very fun movie.
That just so happened to take place in the
I mean, how many times did you see the American flag, really?
Yeah, you didn't really. Yeah. It didn't have like prolonged scenes of someone like staring at a flag with their arm on there.
We just got it. I think the most prominent scene was at the funeral, at Iceman's funeral, and that's just because that's what they do. I've been to military funerals in the past, and
that's just how it is.
Protocol.
Yeah, exactly. You've been to a military funeral?
I have, actually.
Wow, that's really interesting. Who is this movie for?
Old people. As we can tell by the box office statistics. No, yeah, I do think this movie is easily for everybody.
I was literally in the comic book shop today.
What?
The comic shop today, just browsing around, and then two guys was like, yo, have you seen the Top Gun movie, the new one? And the other dude said, no, but I heard it's so good.
Yep, I've overheard a lot. People are excited for this movie, and you wouldn't think that like an old school actor would get this many people excited, and yet they are. Like they're coming for it, and it's not Marvel or Disney.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. That is a bigger shock, but Tom Cruise though still, I think, brings in, generally speaking, a box office following. Like look at the Mission Impossible movies
franchise.
Yes, and this movie did kind of feel like a Mission Impossible movie. But a little bit.
I mean, without the physical stunts.
Yeah, well, the writer that's been working on the last couple of films did write some of the script, so I'm sure he came up with that mission. Like, he had to.
We haven't talked about the director actually, who
Joseph
has worked
Kosinski,
with him.
Yes,
He worked with him Oblivion.
Yes, he did.
Which I actually saw with Eddie in theaters, and that movie was kind of mediocre.
Yeah,
which
I never
movie was
saw
this?
that.
Oblivion. Do you remember that one where Tom Cruise is like mining for water, and then he has to fight an alien at the end?
Oh my God!
It was not a bad movie by any
Emily
means.
Blunt's in this movie, right?
Yes.
No,
that's Edge of Tomorrow.
Yes, Edge of Tomorrow. Now that movie's fantastic. That's a Tom Cruise movie, right?
I totally.
Although I picture that one more really as an Emily Blunt film.
I can't think of Oblivion.
It had a very beautiful lady opposite him, and I think either Samuel L. Jackson was a bad guy.
Morgan Freeman.
Thank you.
I never saw it.
We saw it in theaters actually, so I remember, and I think it. Yeah, I didn't see it I didn't see it for Tom Cruise. We saw it for the sci-fi because it was like an original sci-fi film.
Yes.
And it was just kind of it was okay, but in retrospect, like I think one of the things that this guy does, he does practical effects very, very well, compared to like most filmmakers that we see nowadays, right? Like who are just over reliant on CGI.
Yeah.
Do you know why studios like Disney are very reliant on CGI though?
Because it's cheaper.
Have I talked about this on the podcast? It's cheaper. No unions.
Oh, there you go.
That's it.
Walt Disney
That's
hated
the main
unions.
reason. Yeah.
So
that is the main reason.
Joseph Kosinski was 12 years old when the original Top Gun comes out, and I heard him on a podcast. He remembers seeing it and stuff, and he kind of was like, I can't believe that 36 years later, here I am making this movie. And when I thought about who this movie was for and like, okay, is this fan service or is this movie for anyone? And like how similar it's unique because it's not exactly like, a regurgitation of the original film. But it is kind of like it's very fan servicey, and there are things that it calls back, and it is kind of similar in the way it moves along to the original film, just like many others, like Mary Poppins Returns and Ghostbusters Afterlife, things that we've covered. And I've thought about why, in general, we have so many of these films, and I kind of have come up with a theory about where we are as a country right now. And I talked a lot about the Reagan era for the 1986 one, but right now is a really scary time for this country. I mean, there's such division and people genuinely hate each other, and there's a lot of violence happening, that I feel like movies like this that kind of call back to a simpler America even, or like, like your past where things weren't as ugly as it is right now, is kind of comforting to watch as a movie viewer. Also, they say, and this is me getting intellectual, I guess, but there's a study that says people who suffer with anxiety prefer rewatching things because of the comfort that it gives them, and it lowers their anxiety instead of watching something new.
You think that's why I'm rewatching Breaking Bad? And
exactly. That works for you, babe.
Superstore.
Well, there is this level of comfort with rewatching things, but like almost being closed off to new things. Like it's like people who tend to do that might have higher anxiety levels within them, and we all suffer anxiety at some point. So, are we a citizen as a country incredibly anxious? We might be, that's why we like watching these things that we've kind of seen before, but we haven't, because it's comfortable and because it's safe, because we kind of feel unsafe, don't we?
Uh-huh.
That's my theory.
Okay. I mean, that kind of tracks along with my theory of like why there've been so many multiverse films as of late. Like it's just that idea like there's a better version of ourselves out there, that we're not stuck in this hellhole that is.
Oh God, how
the late
really
20s, the 2020s. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, it's really sad. Yeah, but the last question is: was this film needed?
I don't know. What do you feel? Do you think this film was needed?
So again, I always say that a film was never really needed. But
I know, so then we may have to reformulate our question.
Yeah.
That's always
good. We've been asking this question like for how many years now?
Like,
3, yeah.
I guess
let's rephrase it, yeah. All right, how do we ask this question?
Well, it's not if
was this film worth
needed,
it?
Okay, yeah, that might be worth it. All right.
I can't believe we finally came up
and
with a new question.
Was this worth it? Was this worth reviving Top Gun?
Yeah, yes. I will say worth it.
Yes.
There was a payoff at the end here. Like I think this was a superior, in my opinion, this was a better film than the original one.
Completely agree.
And isn't that like what you want out of a remake or a revival? Right?
Yeah,
like you
or
wanted
a sequel.
To,
yeah,
or even a sequel. Yeah, you wanted to give you what made the original one so good and excel.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
You know what I always find funny in movies like these? When they kind of do an ending and they kind of looking at photos of things that just like happened, right? So when Rooster is looking at the photos that Maverick has, a collage.
I think that okay. Remind me about the collage. But go on.
Yeah, the kind of thing. So there's the photo that he lands on. As he's going through, he lands on his dad and stuff like that. But the one of like the end mission when him and Maverick are just like laughing with each other. All I could think about is, who's the photographer that takes
yes,
all the time.
Who the photographer takes these pictures? I don't know where it's
such a nitpick, but that's my biggest nitpick. It was like, was there a photographer?
Like, who is the mysterious photographer that says, "Oh my God, this is a great photo album"?
Yeah.
Well, that's why.
And then he makes sure. Oh, I just want to make sure that you guys got this photo.
Yeah. No. I noticed that a lot in movies, especially when they use candid photos. and they have them framed because like I know no one who has ever framed a candid photo. Usually it's posed photos only.
Seriously.
But no, when I saw that early in the film, when we saw like that
especially
tribute to,
unfiltered photos.
Yeah. When we saw that tribute to Goose. In the beginning of the movie, I was just like, is he in love with Goose? Because like I understand one photo or two, but like a whole wall dedicated to Goose, like it's been 30-something years. Bro.
Well, 30-something years and still trying to talk to him. That's love.
That's why it didn't work out with Charlie.
Yeah,
you know?
And Penny apparently.
And Penny, yeah.
She's finally ready to move on. And well, I mean, Iceman texted him, it's time to let go. Like, you got to let go of Goose and move on with your life. So.
The gay subtext.
Last thing, what'd you think of the Lady Gaga song?
Oh, it's no Take My Breath Away. I think I said that very loudly before walking out. And I think people gave me looks. But it's not. It's nowhere near as, like, earwormy as the original. It's fine.
I mean, the only thing I liked was that a film ended with like a tie-in song. Like we don't really get that anymore. But I didn't
I've been
hear
complaining
it
about that for a while.
Much. Yeah, I know the score incorporated the song into it, but I heard "Take My Breath Away" a million times in the first one. So by like the end of the movie, I knew the lyrics. I didn't for this one. So but
But I respect that the studios are. I hope that I do hope that that's a trend that continues. I love a good. Original song attached to a movie. That's just like.
And apparently, Tom Cruise like cried when he heard it. Like, come on, he has to be gay. Like he cried when he heard. Lady Gaga song.
He cried because he met Lady Gaga.
Yeah, like he's got to be gay. So.
But
what do you guys think? Oh, poor Tom Cruise. That multi-millionaire. I feel so bad for him. What do you guys think?
No, come on, wait, hang on. Okay. Before we go, I think it's. Look, he has more money than I will ever probably have, right? Putting it out there, probably. But it's still, it's still a man's sexuality. And, like, especially during Pride, like, we shouldn't... I think as a society, we're too quick to condemn people who are in the closet because it's still their journey at the end of the day, you know what I mean?
I'm not condemning him. I'm just saying I think he is one. I'm not saying how dare you stay in the closet. I'm just saying I'm of the mindset where I'm sure he is. And I understand why... mostly men stay in the closet, especially these old school ones, like why John Travolta still is, because they have that mentality and they think it will ruin their careers. And I think that's more our fault, not their faults. They feel unsafe, and that's terrible.
But what if they're not, though?
But like they're convinced that like their main demographic, which is more like cis heterosexual men, won't want to see them in movies anymore.
Right.
And it's like it shouldn't change your mind that Tom Cruise is as cool as he is because he's gay. And it sucks that if he is, he doesn't come out for that reason because he thinks you can't see him as a leading man anymore.
But is Tom Cruise someone we want on our team because like he is a little on the cray side?
I mean, hey, I welcome
I don't know.
anyone. I accept people for who they are, unless
the straights could keep them, in my opinion.
Unless you're like Harvey Weinstein or something, I don't accept you.
Oh yeah, no. Harvey Weinstein.
I'm glad he's on their team. Yeah.
Right. What a way to kick off Pride by
happy Pride.
People. Actually, if you stayed this long, guys, if you're around on Sunday, June 3rd, 4th, 5th. Wow, sorry guys. If you're around Sunday, June 5th, come. You can meet us at.
In Hoboken,
Hudson
New Jersey.
Museum in Hoboken,
if you're in the tri-state area, of course.
That was a terrible plug I just did. I'm sorry, guys, but check us out.
All right. Well, I think this was fun. And I mean, summer movie season has kicked off. We're going to be going to the movies a lot. So
I know. That means a lot of Wednesday recordings.
Possibly. I mean, that's if you stop being a cheapskate, but
no, absolutely not.
No way. We will not stop being cheapskates. How dare you?
Well, I mean, the experience will be better.
But no, let us know what you guys thought if you guys saw the new Maverick. And here's a way to check us out. Email us. Our email is remakesrebootsrevivals@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Instagram. Our handle is remakesrebootsrevivals. We're on Facebook /remakesrebootsrevivals. And we also have a hotline, guys. Give us a call. 862-248-2326. That's 862-248-2326. And if you want to check out old episodes of our podcast, go to www.remakesrebootsrevivals.com.
Awesome. That was beautiful, Rolando. You didn't even need my help.
Yes. I did not.
All right. Well, until next time.
Stay unoriginal.